welcome to Uncorked-N-Conversation. I am very excited to bring you tonight's episode. It is September 24th. We are in the month of September, and as many of our listeners may know, you may not know, this is Brain Aneurysm Awareness Month, and we would like to discuss details about brain aneurysm awareness and signs to look for. And we're very excited to have a dear friend of mine on tonight. Hello, Dulce.
Hi. How's everybody?
Say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks
I'm
for
very
having
excited
me.
to have you on. Thank you so much for being here. I spent a very limited amount of time at NYU, as many of my friends know, and one of the most beautiful things that came out of that was that I made lifelong friends that I am still in touch with more than 30 years later. And Dulce happens to be one of those people.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. So a great privilege to have her involved in this tonight. Dulce, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for just, well, actually not just for a second, but go ahead and kick us off. I'd like for you, if you would, to introduce yourself to our audience and talk to us about your experience in with brain aneurysm and brain health and the events that took place when you were diagnosed, if you will, with the brain aneurysm that you suffered.
Okay. Well, let's see. About in 2008, I was working as a real estate appraiser, and I was driving to work on 287. I don't know if any of you guys are in New Jersey or not. It's a major interstate, 4-lane highway with trucks and everything like that. And I was driving to work, and I remember it was a beautiful, beautiful blue day. I had just hung up on the phone with one of my friends, and all of a sudden I heard just a shock into my eye, and it felt like somebody just took a knife and stabbed me. Then all of a sudden my whole neck and shoulders were completely stiff. I couldn't move anything. Now, I had a history of fainting, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm just fainting. You know what? Luckily, I'm in traffic. Thank God for that. And I knew enough that I needed to pull over because I started feeling like my body was swerving, or the car was swerving. Something was happening that I knew was, not right. So I pulled myself over on the shoulder, drank some water, had some granola bar, but I still felt the same. So, I didn't know what to do. My first inclination, which was kind of crazy, is I called work. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to be late today. Something's wrong. I think I need to go see a doctor. And they were like, okay, don't worry, take care of yourself, whatever. And at this point, I started getting really scared because I was like, I don't know what's happening. So I called my sister. At first I didn't call my mom because my mom was at a business meeting in Virginia. My husband was in an interview in New York City. And so the only person I could call at that point was my sister, who luckily was home. And she has a friend who's a police officer who sent an ambulance to me. And they were asking me all these like really weird questions, like, do you have meningitis? Have you ever been out of the country? Because I guess because of my neck and shoulders were all stiff. They didn't know. Now, I did something really stupid at this point because I could have gone into the ambulance, but for two reasons I didn't want to go. One, the cost, and two, they were going to a different hospital from where I wanted to be. I wanted to be at the hospital near my house. So my sister had her come to get me, and she drove me to the hospital that's 5 minutes from my house. And, still nobody said anything to me. Nobody knew anything. And then they were like, oh, well, let's do an ultrasound on you and all this stuff. And my sister and I were being really silly, and she was just trying to distract me and whatever. And I still had a headache. I still couldn't move my neck. I still couldn't move my shoulders, nothing. And the doctor came in and he just blurted out. He goes, you have a brain aneurysm. You have blood on your brain. You have an aneurysm that ruptured. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, what is that? Now, bear in mind, since 2008, so that's 12 years ago.
Wow. can't find the word to describe how my heart is sinking. You experienced something that's, scary and terrifying, but it's so amazing to know that you have survived it. What are some of the important facts that we should know about brain aneurysm?
That aneurysms happen in 1 in 50 people, happen more often in women, happen more often in women of color. A lot of it can be because of high blood pressure, which I had. I didn't know at the time. It could be a genetic thing, like you just were born with it, or someone in your family could have had it and passed it along to you. Oh, that's the same thing. Never mind. And so they didn't give me any reasons, but of course, the majority of aneurysms happen at the front of the brain. It's like a frontal lobe. That's the majority of where all of them happen. But mine was in the back of my head. If you picture a tree branch, right? All the arteries in your head are like tree branches. My aneurysm was a branch off of a branch. So they would normally have cut my head open and clipped it if it were in the front, because it was, that's the way they did it back then. But because of where mine was, they had to do it in a different way, which was a method called coiling. And what they do is they take this like tube, I guess, and they stick it into your femoral artery, which is down by your groin, and snake it up all the way to your brain. And they did this with an angiogram where you literally could see him going through all the arteries into my brain, and they stuck these platinum coils into the spot where it ruptured to stop it from bleeding, like it's to fill the bubble up. If I had a picture, just picture a picture like something that's like a long tube, and in the middle of the tube is like a little balloon. That's an aneurysm. Okay, mine burst. So blood is not supposed to be in the brain. I don't remember, honestly, from the point where I got to the hospital and they said, we can't do a craniotomy on you. We have to send you to another hospital. So they put me in an ambulance and sent me to another hospital about 45 minutes from my house. Luckily, the doctor that was there is the guy that invented this procedure that sends the platinum coils into the aneurysm.
Now, Dulce, you mentioned it's been 12 years since your brain aneurysm. Can you tell us, what do you remember while you were in the hospital?
During that time, there were a couple of incidents which I don't know or remember. My husband said he remembers there was a point where his mom and he were in my room, and the nurse put me on a chair so they could tend to the bed, and I bugged out. I was in excruciating pain. Something had happened in my spine. I don't know. I was in excruciating pain. I was screaming. They ended up coming in and giving me medicine. Before that happened, let me back. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. But funny story, haha, I found out after the fact. While I'm in surgery, right, my doctor came out and was having an argument with another doctor, right? So my husband, my mom, and my sister were all there waiting. And my husband saw them fighting, and he could see that my doctor was getting all heated. His name is Dr. Benitez. Great, great, great doctor. So my husband went over to Dr. Benitez and he said, "What are you doing?" And he said to the other doctor, "My wife is in there. Why aren't you in there?" He goes, "Oh, no, this is nothing. Your wife is being prepped. Don't worry about it." And Josh, my husband, said, "You need to leave." He said that to the other doctor. The other doctor left. He took my doctor's shoulders, right, by his hands, and he said, "You need to go back in there and act like that is your mother on the table," right? So Dr. Benitez said, "No, no, no, no. Everyone's like very important." And Josh goes, "No, like it's your mother." I'm like, "Oh my God, he could have killed me from you saying all this nonsense," right? So they did the procedure, and then I was in the ICU. It was a neuro ICU. I was there for 2.5 weeks. And when I woke up, I saw that like a square on my head was shaved off. and there were stitches there. And I said, I was like, oh my God, what happened to my hair? And I said this to the doctor. He goes, well, would you rather have the hair or be dead? I'm like, well, I kind of want my hair. So I had a big, square there. And then in
So
the
much for
square,
bedside manner, huh?
no, he was excellent guy.
Just kidding. Yeah.
So after the surgery, the first 2 weeks, the reason they keep you in the neuro ICU is because you could have something called vasospasms. And what it is, it's like mini stroke that could happen in your brain, right? So they had to make sure that those things weren't happening. And so that's why they kept you in neuro ICU, and they were watching me and whatever. And there was one point where first the spot where the tube had to go in the femoral artery got really hard and black. So I called the nurse. They were like, "Oh, that's not good." And so they were doing this thing where they were pushing it down, I guess, to like try to avoid a blood clot from happening. So that happened. And then I don't know how much time later, I literally vomited for like 24 hours. And they equated that to like some kind of a reaction, I guess, to all the stuff that had happened. So that happened. Then the thing happened when I was on the chair happened. There were only certain things that I remember. I remember watching the Olympics, and I saw Phelps win his title. Remember when he won 7 or 8 or whatever it was in a row? I watched that. That's what I watched while I was in the hospital.
Because of the brain aneurysm, I can imagine there will be short-term and long-term effects. Can you tell us what that has been like for you? What have you experienced?
My one of my friends had given me a travel magazine, to like try and chill and whatever. And the words, I looked at them and everything was all jumbled, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to read again. And over time, I was able to read, but I wasn't able to comprehend like the way I normally would. So I'm sorry if I get emotional. So I was to bring myself back. I had loved Harry Potter. And so it's like, it's a children's book. I should be able to read this.
It's okay.
So
It's okay.
Wow.
it was a lot to deal with that. Like I was like afraid that I wasn't going to be able to do the things that I like to do. So I was afraid to read. And more importantly, I was afraid to knit. And I knit and crochet I love it so much. I can't even express to you if I go a day without doing anything like that, I don't feel like complete, And right before the aneurysm, I had been working on this. I was knitting a pig for my son, and I was afraid to pick up the knitting needles. It wasn't until I got home that I picked them up and I was able to do it. So I was relieved, but it took me so long to even just get to there because I was so afraid.
What an incredible journey that you have experienced and what you are still experiencing. What has helped you along your journey to recovery and survival?
So bear in mind, a neurosurgeon is not the same as a neurologist. A neurosurgeon, all he does is goes in and fixes the problem. And so aftercare, the support, at least back then, was terrible. It was like non-existent. They had like in-person support groups, but I went to one and I did not feel comfortable with that. And then Facebook actually saved me. I have to be honest. Their groups were like godsends because you go into these groups and they're private, so you can speak your mind, right? These people completely 100% understood what I was feeling and going through. And, the similarities were crazy. I mean, everybody had their own, just like, when you have a baby, everybody's pregnancy story is different. Everybody's is different, but there were so many similarities. And one of them is the aftercare where you don't know what to expect. Like I remember there was one instance where I felt like popping was happening in my head after I was already home. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, what's going on? Is another one happening? Because that was the biggest fear for like a long time, like another one was going to happen. And I called a neurosurgeon, and he said, that's normal. Why didn't you tell me that before? Um,
Oh, wow.
there were certain things like I knew there were going to be deficits, and what deficits just means is like my body is not the same as it was. My brain does not work the same as it was. I'm a different person now. I don't behave the same. My filter is gone. My patience level is gone. One of the main things that my husband was worried about is that my personality was going to change, because that was one of the things that can happen is you can get personality changes, short-term memory loss. I have that. There's something called aphasia or language aphasia, where if, let's say, I'm talking and it's quite possible this could be happening and I don't know right now. I could say this is white when in fact, I could say this is black when in fact it's white, or vice versa. And it's just because my brain's not processing it. There are days where, I can't pick up social cues ever anymore. Like sometimes I'll be like, why is that person looking at me? Like, like she's looking at me funny, like she's mad at me, or, whatever. Like, I don't know if it's like I'm being paranoid, or it's just I'm feeling it, or it's my brain making that up, or whatever. There's headaches, daily headaches. I have tried everything under the sun. I smoke now, and that helps. But it's literally a crapshoot. Sometimes the smoking doesn't help. Sometimes the pills don't work. Sometimes, I made this bag with beads and put like what's that called? Eucalyptus and stuff, and put it in the refrigerator, put it on my head, like all the different things, whatever. Anyway, really what I wanted to try and get across, and you guys can ask me whatever you want, honestly, is if you feel like something's just not right, go to the hospital. You feel like this kind of a pain happens, go to the hospital. It can hurt. What the worst thing that's going to happen is you die. This is not something that you play with, because you just don't. 1 in 50 people die from it. And for me, somebody was watching over me, because the location where I had it, I had a 1 in 3 chance of dying. The initial burst, I had 1 in 3 chance of dying. And then the 2-week period, I had a 1 in 3 chance of dying. So, my friend's like, oh, you won the lottery. And I'm like, this lottery is like a fucked up lottery, because yeah, I'm alive and stuff, and I'm okay, and I'm good, and my family's here, but it changed the whole dynamic of our family. It changed our financial situation. So anything you guys want to ask me?
First, I just want to say what an extraordinary story, that you've shared with us, your personal experience. It really is mind-blowing, the extent of the impact that it continues to have on you, the experiences that you went through when you had the aneurysm take place. A couple of things that you shared in your post that I saw on Facebook, and you've had a chance, we've had some of this discussion a number of times, but the fact that an estimated 6.5 million people in the US have an unruptured brain aneurysm, which is 1 in 50 people. The annual rate of rupture is approximately 8 to 10 per 100,000 people, which is about 30,000 people in the United States will suffer a brain aneurysm rupture each year. And a brain aneurysm ruptures every 18 minutes. Seeing that, reading that on your post that you made, just seriously blew my mind, because it's a lot more prevalent than what I had first believed. And I think what's so frightening is you just don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know. And the thing is, they don't do any kind of screening. There's no screening at all. Like literally, unless your neurologist, let's say you have like a lot of headaches and whatever, you could say, hey, why don't you do an MRI on me and check, make sure I don't have anything wrong. People who have migraines tend to have, they're the ones that should get checked. There's no screening at all for it. So it's mostly if you have bad headaches and you go see a neurologist, it's only until they say, okay, let's go send an MRI. And an MRI is a like picture, it's an ultrasound for your brain, but the MRA is an ultrasound for your brain, but of the arteries. So that's what they send you once, like when mine ruptured, that's what they send me for, is to check the specific is to check arteries specifically. So, but there's no screening for it. Like basically it's a crapshoot.
And I think that's what's so frightening. That's what, of course, one of the things that's just so frightening about it. And I heard you say at the beginning that women of color are more likely to suffer.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with like a high blood pressure, because like, for example, I apparently can't take Advil anymore. Advil is a vasoconstrictor. It constricts your arteries. And so I'm not allowed to take that. Any cold medicines that have that pseudo blah, 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 whatever that word is, I can't take any of those. Those all constrict your arteries.
Wow.
So I use Vicks.
Vicks is good.
Vicks works.
Well, I swear by Vicks.
Vicks is the best.
Yeah, it's just the old school remedy.
It is. It
Now,
works.
before, are you prone to any kind of, like, were you having headaches prior or anything? Just nothing? So
Nothing.
you had no idea that you were at risk of an
No,
aneurysm.
no. According to one of the doctors that I'd seen after the fact, he said that he looked at my eyes and the veins in your eyes. He said that from there he could tell that I had high blood pressure for years that was undiagnosed. Who knows if that's true?
And here, and this may just be off subject just a tad, but it's my understanding that through eye appointments, when you go for your eye exam, they have a technology, and it's been in effect for quite a few years or more. There's a technology that can actually read your eyes to tell what kind of health ailments that you may have.
Really?
So yeah. So that may be something, we
That's
can
a-
all look,
Yeah.
into, but
Is it a
apparently,
special test?
yeah,
Is
it
that-
is a special
Is that
test.
the one where you put your eye in and that puff of air into
Yeah.
your eyes? Is
Well,
that it?
I'm not sure, but what I do know is that insurances is so expensive that insurances won't pay for it.
I believe that.
It is an out-of-pocket expense, but the eye doctors do, ask you if you want to take the test now. And this is how I know, is because I had started seeing like what they call floaters
Mhm.
Me too.
in my eye, and then I was getting like a flash of light in my left eye, and that was just, I'm aging gracefully, mind you, but it was such a shock to me. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on with my eye? So it is something that I needed to check out. So I went to the eye doctor, and he pretty much said there was nothing going on with my eyes. I was fine. But he did want to know if I wanted that test. And so I asked him to explain it to me. And this was right before COVID. So it's more recent than an old process. So he explained it to me. He said it is one. And it's the patient, if I may, has to agree to take the test, because it will reveal health issues or potential health problems. But again, your benefits on your job, they don't tend to pay. Some folks have better insurance than others, but my job, I don't think they were going. I said no to it because, quite frankly, I didn't want to know the rest of it. All I wanted to know was that my floaters and my flash of light was no concern. So,
guess how much the whole thing with the aneurysm and everything, how much it costs?
How much?
I can't even imagine.
Yes.
Maybe 10, well, let me see, maybe 200,000.
You're close. Go up.
300, 400,000.
350.
350. Wow.
I am still paying the doctor.
Right. And so that was your hesitance of going into the ambulance.
Yeah. The ambulance ride, wait. The ambulance ride from the hospital by me to up there, $4,000.
Right. I've heard that ambulance rides are quite expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, but of course it could have, you were, not so much were, but are very blessed because you kind of fought getting the treatment you needed immediately. It could have been a different
Yeah.
scenario. It's my understanding that, with an aneurysm or any kind of brain trauma, you are pressed for time before you potentially become a vegetable. So
Yeah.
blessing you. It's good to talk to you.
You
And
too.
it's great information because you never know. You can be around someone and this can happen. Your conversation can help us help our friends today.
Yeah. Well,
You
I
know,
hope, God forbid it happens to anyone else. I would not wish this on my worst enemy,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. I had one of my oldest friend, one that predates our friendship, Linda.
What? April and I go back to our 13-year-old, 14-year-old lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh, she said that out loud. Ooh.
I can say it. You can't say it.
right.
Get
Yeah,
me in trouble, why don't
we
you?
were friends like sixth grade when we met, and then we kind of lost out of touch for some years, and then found ourselves back together again when we just ended up at the same college, right? And so we became, fast friends again, like the day never ended, it never stopped. So we picked up where we left off and became, friends throughout the years. And I moved away, to Ohio and lived there for like 20 some odd years, and we still stayed in contact. I would still come down to visit her. And she originally from New York. And so when I moved back here in 2007, of course, she was very happy because we were back together in the same spaces again. But about 3 years after that, like you said, out of nowhere, she just started experiencing some headaches, and she got an aneurysm, and she had an operation. I say she had about maybe three or four.
She had 3 or 4
Um,
aneurysms?
3 or 4 aneurysm. Well, I want to say she had 2 aneurysms, two that happened, transpired, and
Right.
she had 4 operations, and one of them they shaved off part of
Yeah.
her
They probably
brain.
did a craniotomy on her.
Okay, yeah. So
And
she
they
had,
put clips in her?
yes, yes. And so she had a number, and then she had another one, and it took her life that last time.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
she's has a son that's a survivor, from her death. She only had one child, and the effects that leaves on the family and and loved ones is heartbreaking. So
Mhm.
as a survivor yourself, is truly blessed that you can tell your story, your experiences for those, who just not even aware
Yeah.
how
Right.
prevalent an aneurysm really is,
Did
because
he
you
get
don't really hear about it.
No, you don't hear about it. Did he get tested? Because what they say is if you have children, those
Hmm.
children should be tested, and you're like direct, like if you have a sister or a brother, they should get tested too. So I had my mom and my
Oh,
sister get tested. They were fine. And my oldest son got checked. He's fine. And my second son, he's gonna have to get checked. But now they cut it off. Now you have to be over 21, and like you need a
okay.
neurologist to say yes, they need to get checked because of history and blah blah. So the insurance will pay for that. If
Oh,
the neurologist knows that his mom passed from it, they'll
hmm.
definitely say go get a check. And so this way, at least he
Okay.
knows, and then a neurologist can follow him if God forbid he has it.
So
Oh,
is that
I'm sorry.
genetic?
It can be genetic.
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
Oh,
my
okay.
question, April.
yeah,
That's exactly what I was gonna
yes,
ask.
it can be
Okay.
genetic.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Okay.
Wow.
One of the other things that the blood on the brain did was it must have done something where it made my brain super sensitive. So my doctor did this test on me where she took me off all meds and then put these um, nodes on my head to check to see what was happening. Basically, my brain never shuts off now. So I have these little, like, it's like basically little, what's the word? Seizures going on in my head. It's very minor, but enough that it's keeping me awake. right? So, and it does stuff to my head, I guess. And there are days where I won't even be able to understand really what you're doing, or not, that's not true, but like, let's say I can't do proper math, or just basic comprehension sometimes is hard, and those are my bad brain days. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Okay, wow, that's pretty
It's a bummer, but yeah.
yeah, it is a bummer. It is a bummer. So how do you are you on like a medication constantly, or
Yes, I
you're
have. Yeah, I have medicines that are supposed to just keep my keep my headaches at bay. Then I have my blood pressure medicine, two of them, and I have a cholesterol medicine and as anxiety medicine. And I have a breakthrough medicine. So if it breaks, like the headaches come through, then I take my more heavier duty of medicine, or I smoke.
So is it diet at all?
I don't. I eat fairly well. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think it's diet.
and I'm asking because you said you were on a cholesterol, and I
Yeah,
know that.
that's just, my doctor was, this one, you guys will love this story. So after the aneurysm, right? I had to get a doctor. I got a neurologist right away, and then I needed a regular general practitioner. So I went to go see this doctor, new doctor. She's asking me for my history. I said, I had an aneurysm. Oh, no, I'm not gonna, I don't want to be, you can't be my patient. I'm like, what? You're too high risk. I don't want to deal with you. I was like, seriously? I was like,
Wow.
oh, snap. So I called my friend who's a doctor. I'm not here in Maine. And she's like, I have a friend in New Jersey. She'll see you. She's good. It's just a little bit of a drive. I'm like, okay. So I only see her every 6 months. So the half-hour drive is not a big deal. And she watches me, and she was a little worried that my cholesterol was borderline. And so she just was worried that it would go up, and then it could cause a stroke, blah, blah. It was just precautionary.
Right, right. So of course she didn't suggest changing your diet for any reason.
No, she asked me what I ate and stuff like that. So I told her generally what I eat. I don't really eat red meat. Maybe I'll have a burger once a week, and I mostly eat chicken.
Yeah. So do you exercise or?
I shouldn't know. I
Oh
do
no,
yoga.
no, no,
That looks
I
like a
just-
no.
I'm not interrogating you.
No,
I
I don't really exercise. I'll do yoga on occasion. I should be doing yoga because of my knee, but not really.
Well, I don't exercise, so I'm not trying to think I'm so
Okay.
special or anything. So please don't misunderstand me. I was just, probing to just
Yeah, I hear you.
if there are any like warning signs, but based on what you're saying, there are none. I mean, and I'm thinking, cholesterol is again a warning sign for stroke. High
Right.
blood pressure, obviously,
That one.
and high blood pressure is a silent killer, is
Yes.
is what I've always been, told. And so, and you don't know that you have, like you in
don't.
your case, you don't know that you have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So why, wait, I'm gonna ask you this because I smoke when I drink. So why do you think you smoke? What do you think the smoking is
It
doing?
relaxes. It helps with the pain, and it lowers my anxiety
Oh, okay.
and
Okay.
chills me out.
Okay.
Well,
So
can I ask, what are you smoking?
I
Are
was
you
getting
talking
ready to say-
tobacco?
I was
Or
saying
you
that
talking
Tracy
about
smokes.
ching ching?
I have a medical marijuana license.
Okay.
oh,
Not the
okay,
same thing
okay.
Tracy smoked.
Oh
No,
yeah, I
that's
can relate to the relaxing and the alleviating the anxiety. Yeah, all for it.
Yeah.
420.
I was actually debating. I was like, should I smoke this way? I'm like, no, but I kind of want to make sense, so I'm not.
well,
That
you're
would have been
doing
okay.
fine.
We're often uncorked, and that is
Okay.
often how
So
some
you
of
know what? Next time I'll come visit, and I will.
Okay. We expect you to be on court the next
I
time.
will.
There you go.
I'll uncork with you, sister.
Okay. Bet.
Well, you are brave, and I appreciate you sharing your story. It's very informative for me because, it's just some things you don't know what to look out for. For example,
Right.
heart attacks. They say that heart attacks happen different ways in
I
different
know.
people,
Yeah.
So again, an aneurysm, same thing, high blood pressure, same thing. So
Yeah.
thank
The
you.
body is mysterious. The body, we're all different. It's just mysterious. Biology is mysterious,
Yeah.
So
Every
was-
time I hear somebody that has one or died from it, it's usually what happens is somebody died from it. Like I didn't know, like Sharon Stone had one, right?
I
Right,
did
She
hear
had
that.
it. She,
I think I
had-
did hear.
yeah. There's like a couple of ball players died from it. Like it's just when it happens, for me, it's like, oh shit, another person died from this, and it's not. I don't see how it can be preventable unless they have some kind of a screening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, and when you say screening, what are you asking for? What are you saying?
The
Can
only
you-
way to screen is if everybody got an MRA, and it's super expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
I see. So,
Wow.
what type of advocating are you doing for
What's funny is this is the first time I usually post since it happened on Facebook during the month, right? And then depending on my mood, will depend on how much I post. So I didn't post as much this time because somebody that I used to work with said, no, you don't sound preachy, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh shit, does that mean I sounded preachy? Like I didn't know how to interpret that. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything more.
don't read too much. Go ahead and preach it.
Right.
You could save someone's life with this valuable info. I personally look at it as valuable information. I mean, because I didn't know there was a such thing as a screening. I didn't know
There is
that.
there isn't a screening. There is no
Well, you
screening.
said to get an
I'm, I'm saying the only real way to screen is if they gave you this test and then they
Right.
would look.
But can't you can ask for the test.
You can ask, they're not gonna say it's okay, and no insurance is gonna cover it unless you
Right,
come
that's the
completely out of
same thing.
pocket. Unless you have like a history of migraines and stuff, that would
Okay.
be the only way. If you had a history of migraines and if there's someone in your family that has it, I don't see them,
Oh,
approving it.
okay.
That's what I
And
mean.
according to the data you shared, ruptured brain aneurysms are fatal in about 50% of cases. That's a huge percentage. So half the time people pass away. Of those who survive, about 66% suffer permanent neurological deficit, as you mentioned, and approximately 15% of people with a ruptured aneurysm die before reaching the hospital.
Right.
So, wow.
Yeah, somebody was watching me. Serious. I was driving. Come on.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying, advocating for this screening to go, without being so expensive, because it is so deadly, if I may. At least 50%, it kills, it kills at least 50. So that's why I was asking, what your application for this, how are you getting the message?
If I were to like lobby to like the government or whatever, it would be to, maybe if they did some research and found like X percentage of these people have a higher percentage, older people have, like, I think the average age is between 40 and 50. I had it right before my 40th birthday. And it would be the cost, the prohibitive cost of an MRI or MRA is, ridiculous. It's like thousands of dollars for one 10-minute test or however long
So
it is.
and it's so unfortunate that it's almost like that they'd rather keep people medicated
Yeah.
opposed
Yeah.
to preventing the cause,
One of the girls that I met in one of my support groups, the aneurysm caused her to have epilepsy. So now she's epileptic. And she just got herself off all her meds and just only smokes weed now. But she had to push so hard to do that. And she worked so hard to do that. She's still on a couple of meds here and there, but not the way it was. And her seizures are like those like ones where they're, you know, you're like seizing up and
Severe. Oh, wow.
yeah, like so she's worse off than I am. I feel terrible for her. But and she and I would not have been, I would not be friends with her had we not met this way, because she's a completely different person than I am, you know what I mean? But because of this, it's like we've bonded, you know, and there's a couple of other people in the support group. So I mean, in that regard, you know, that's a positive.
Dulce, how has it been since post-aneurysm?
I tried to go back to work. I worked for like a year, and that was the worst day. My boss came up to me, no warning, nothing, and said, you know, we don't, something like we don't want to be responsible for you with your headaches, and you know, you've been making mistakes. They didn't tell me any of that before that day, and I cried at the office. And my husband's like, "Why did you cry?" And I'm like, I was the other great side effect for this thing is that I literally cry all the, you know, drop of a hat. I see a commercial, I'm crying, you know?
Well, just consider them cleansing tears.
Yeah.
They're not a bad thing.
Yes, yes.
Ladies, what other questions do you have for Dulce? Dulce, also, is there anything else that you'd like to share with regards to?
Well, the positive thing is now they're less the if God forbid you have an aneurysm and they want to clip you or coil you or whatever, it's much better than when I was, you know, now they do this thing with the glue. I don't know how it's done, but they do it with glue. There's another thing called, there's a knife that they do also. All these are non-invasive procedures, whereas the craniotomy is super invasive and the recovery time is much worse. That's the one where they shave you and cut you, you know, open.
So I do have a question, and you know, I'm always got questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the many groups that you're in,
Yeah.
are there any strong advocates for aneurysms? Are they, or is it just, and just please don't misunderstand my just. I mean, is it, are they just pretty much being support for folks that have had the aneurysm, or are they actually looking to pass law to get the treatments that people that are coming behind you deserve and need?
No. One of the groups is just support. The other group is this, I don't know if any of you guys follow baseball. There's a guy, his name is Phil Niekro, and he used to pitch for the Astros. He died from an aneurysm, and his daughter runs this one called, I honestly don't remember, it's some Niekro something brain aneurysm foundation that I belong to. And they're the ones that have been doing the most work because her dad was so famous or whatever.
Right.
She's been pushing funding for research.
Right.
And for preventative.
Right.
So that's what she does.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I can encourage you to maybe say to her that I'd like to help you in this process. And
okay.
Because your story is very impacting. I'm touched.
Yes.
So in that case, maybe you can let her know that you can help her based on your story with the impact to folks that are willing to listen and get some feed. Your story is real. It's not nothing that you heard. You've got a real story, and you've got informative information. You've got facts. You've got doctors. You've got treatments, if I may. And I'm sure her dad did as well, but
yes,
you never know. She may be willing to help her get the message out. So,
we did it. Well, there was a period, I can't remember now when it was, within the past 12 years. There was a push at one point. This woman, I honestly can't remember her name. She's on a TV show. She had an aneurysm, and she was trying to push for more awareness. And we did this TV spot, and it was me and like 5 other people. We did like a quick blurb about it, and it didn't go anywhere. So it's like we try and then nothing happens.
Well,
so that happened a few years back,
I wonder if that was Ali Ozzy's wife, because I want
What's
to
the
say,
name?
Sharon Osbourne.
yeah, Sharon Osbourne.
No, not Sharon. No, it
It
wasn't her.
wasn't.
Recent.
I thought I heard something about her having an aneurysm. or
It's
something.
possible she does.
Yeah.
This woman was a youngish Black girl. She was in her 20s when it happened.
Wow.
So she couldn't believe that it actually had happened to her. She had the surgery. Her recovery time was, quicker because she's always in her 20s. But she wanted to get the word out. And then I can't remember. Sorry.
Well, with all due respect, they don't listen. They don't listen to Black folk when we speak. So that's
the other people that were in the talking were not all. They weren't all Black. They were like everybody was a woman. It was all women though.
right. But yeah, I just sometimes you just have to press, and one of these doors will open to get the message. It's a powerful message. And it's so unfortunate unless it's happening to some big wig, nobody can answer. And I'll just kind of go here. But when the opioid addiction, when that thing came out, as long as it was in the inner cities and it didn't affect, but then when it started affecting the big guys,
right?
Okay, now we need to do something.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, and we don't know how many big guys or big people that, if I may, because we're all equal, but we don't know how many it's affecting. So that could be a piece of potential research as well.
Yeah, but you know what? Biden had one.
Oh,
the
really?
President. Yeah.
Recent, since he's been president?
No, from when he was younger. He had one.
Oh,
he had it treated, but he had one.
Yeah.
So, but it's not going, he doesn't talk about it. He's not going to talk about it because that's weak.
Well, right now he won't talk about it because he's in presidency and he doesn't want anyone to think he's incompetent. Some folk are pushing that he has dementia and I think early Alzheimer's. So they're pushing that he has something going on.
Yeah, he's having aphasia from the aneurysm.
Right.
He's having the language issue. That's it.
That's what they're saying. Yeah. So he doesn't want to push that because then it, again, like you said, it looks like he's weak or incompetent. So
I do want to say, go ahead, Trace, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say blessings to you. Stand on your conviction, stay strong, and I'll continue to send out prayers, that your mind will stay relevant and in its whole self, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do want to say that there is apparently money out there. And when I say that, I'm kind of new to this organization. It's a Podcasters Association of Florida. And the head of it, a gentleman named Chris Kremitzis, has talked about cause-based podcasts. Now, ours is not necessarily a cause-based podcast. However, we do discuss causes. And he mentioned that there are organizations in and around the DC and Maryland area that are looking specifically for podcast platforms to support financially. I just heard about this on Tuesday. So I'm going to explore some of the resources that he's mentioned. I have a standing virtual town hall meeting with them on every second Tuesday of the month. So I'm going to do some research in between now and when I meet with them again and see what I can find out and, see what we might be able to do to bring some attention, some awareness, and some money to this cause, because I think it's definitely necessary.
Looking up, you mentioned that celebrities who had aneurysm, and I saw Sharon Stone, but I didn't know that the girl from Game of Thrones,
oh yeah,
is that who you were trying to recall? Yeah. She had two.
She had two, and one of them happened while she was filming.
Yeah, I just read that.
Crazy. I was like, oh my God.
You would have never known.
No.
You would have never known. And wow, Bret Michaels. Remember Bret Michaels?
Yes.
Yeah, he died from it.
He did die?
I think so. I think he did die.
Kevin Sorbo, Hercules. I used to watch Hercules all the time. But yeah, okay. Man,
Well,
this is
Dulce,
nothing to
again,
play
thank you.
with.
It's not, yeah. Thank you again for sharing. Any other questions or anything else, ladies? Well, I want to give you a chance, Dulce, if you would like to plug Dulce's Designs.
Dulce Designs, DULZ Designs. I have an Etsy shop. Currently, I'm selling patterns. That's the only positive to this. The only positive is that my creativity has flourished. So again, I was nervous, I was scared. So I had literally for years and years and years, every time I make something, I write it down so that I can make it again. And now what I've been doing is I've been putting them together and selling the patterns so that anyone else who wants to make whatever a thing that I've designed can make it. So I have it on Etsy, my Etsy shop, and also on Ravelry, which is a knitting and crocheting site for knitters and crocheters, and also Dulce Designs, DULZ Designs.
Outstanding. Thank you. We will definitely share your links so that we can promote you. Yes.
You could be the next. Remember back in the day when they used to have patterns? You would go into the fabric store and they have patterns.
Yes.
You could be the next McCall.
Right.
Imagine.
Don't say.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, call it what it is. And you know, I just believe that God doesn't make mistakes and all things are designed. And so you're doing exactly what you are called to do.
That was one of the things I had to accept all the changes and be like, okay, this is it. I could move on. I'm going to let it be whatever it's going to be. It's not going to be on my time frame, clearly. So I just had to let it go with the flow, and that's just what's been happening of late. So
going with the flow. Let go, let God.
Let go, let God. Exactly.
Bravo, bravo.
Slowly but surely, right?
Yes.
Well, again, thank you for joining us, listeners. You can listen to our podcast on all podcasting platforms. Well, most podcasting platforms, not all. Most podcasting platforms, such as Spotify.
But it
Not
will
yet, but
be.
we're growing. Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, just to name a few. You can also find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Uncorked-N-Conversation, as well as a brand new 189 member strong Facebook group, public group, clink, 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 called Wind Down with Uncorked. Find us on Facebook, Wind Down with Us. We love to share inspiration and just great thoughts and great feelings each day. You can find us on Instagram at Uncorked-N-Convo, on Twitter at Uncorked-N, Uncorked the letter N, and I believe that is everywhere. Did I miss anything, ladies?
I think you got it.
All right. Well, this has been a great night. Thank you, ladies. Let's go ahead and wrap up. We have enjoyed you all listening to us. And until our next episode,
be well.
Thank you for listening to Uncorked-N-Conversation. This podcast is co-hosted by Linda White, April N. Brown, Tracy Langford, Paulette Irvy, and Sarita Bostic. It is produced and edited by April N. Brown. The music is by Ben Sound.